Hello, everyone. Phil Lee returning with another episode of Civil War Chat. Today is May 28th, 2022. Today's topic is Obama's self-awareness deficit. So let me pull up my notes and we'll get started on that. The day after a lone shooter massacred 19 10-year-olds and 2 teachers at a Texas school, former President Barack Obama messaged his followers over Twitter, and there's millions of them, quote, "As we grieve the children of Uvalde today, we should take note to recognize that 2 years have passed since the murder of George Floyd under the knee of a police officer. His killing stays with us all to this day, especially those who loved him," close quote. Obama's remark reveals how badly he is unaware of the problems beyond racism threatening today's Americans. George Floyd was a criminal adult and drug addict. He was arrested for attempting to spend counterfeit $20 bills when he died in March 2020. In 2009, he was convicted of armed robbery and served a 5-year jail term. Although Floyd fathered 5 children in Houston, he moved to Minneapolis in 2014, where he had a girlfriend in his last 3 years. While tragic, his death during the 2020 arrest is not comparable to the massacre of 19 10-year-old children. Obama is so absorbed with his personal racist agenda that he automatically responds to any news development in terms of how it affects his program. He lacks the self-awareness to even comprehend that alleged racism is not America's predominant problem, and his connection of it to Uvalde is reprehensible. He cannot even make that connection. That's how unaware he is. We have unprecedented inflation, evidenced by $6 a gallon gasoline in parts of the country, which Obama's political party excuses as a necessary transition away from fossil fuels. It is an ivory tower solution to a problem that threatens countless Americans with bankruptcy. Simultaneously, our federal government gives away $40 billion to help Ukraine fight a war against Russia, a war that may not have happened at all if our leaders had put a higher priority on withdrawing competently from Afghanistan rather than eliminating imaginary white supremacy in the military as a higher priority. It is long past time that Obama and the Democrat Party realize that white racism is not America's predominant problem. In truth, America is the least racist of all major multiracial countries. Obama would not have been elected president without white voters, and there's a long line of Black immigrants that want into our country, despite our alleged, quote, systemic racism, close quote. The, quote, diversity, equity, and inclusion movement is a pernicious manipulation to abandon meritocracy for a quota system based on race and gender. It leads to a decline in our nation's abilities instead of an improvement. It promotes anti-white racism and misandry, which leads to a hatred for traditional American values. It thereby destroys America as we know it and offers in exchange a promise of a vague and imagined utopia, nothing more than an imagined utopia. It is another ivory tower solution decoupled from reality. Shelby Steele, a Black fellow at the Hoover Institution, insightfully recognizes that Black complaints about racism increase with less racism, not more. Quote, "The oppressed only act out their anger when they perceive weakness in the oppressor. Blacks did not often act out their anger during slavery and segregation because the oppressor had too much power. Anger in the oppressed is a response to perceived opportunity, not injustice. And expressions of anger escalate not with more injustice, but actually with less injustice. That's why the NAACP, which pioneered public school racial integration during a period of true injustice, now demands that President Biden grant Blacks a larger student loan forgiveness amount per student than whites, because we're in a period of less injustice. They can make such a demand. To keep our ship afloat, Obama and his bogus obsession with Black racial oppression must be thrown overboard. Blacks were not the only ones who built this country. Even former Confederates and slaveholders were among those who did so. Without them, America's western border would be the Mississippi River today instead of the Pacific Ocean. If we had leaders like Robert E. Lee who admitted their mistakes and took personal responsibility for their failures as a matter of duty, we might never have suffered the humiliation of Afghanistan and the consequent Russian invasion of Ukraine, with its associated economic chaos for those of us here in the United States as well as elsewhere. You'll get more information like this from my latest book, The Dreadful Frauds, Critical Race Theory and Identity Politics. You want an autographed copy? It's $20, but you got to email me, Phil, PHIL_Lee, LEIGH, at me.com. You can get it for $16 at Amazon with no autograph. So go ahead and buy it there if you want. But look behind me here. What I want to show you is there's no university press behind me. No academic press is going to publish books that tell you the two sides of the Civil War, the two sides of Reconstruction. What they put out is the normal propaganda on the one-sided interpretation of the Civil War and Reconstruction, in which 90% of the blame is put on white Southerners. Truth is not a value. It is not a value with those people. What they have is a commitment to a dogma that is propaganda. They've got the money. Books like what I've written, and I've got, I think, a total of 9 books now at Amazon on Civil War and Reconstruction and things like critical race theory. They will not publish those points because it does not conform to their agenda of blaming the white Southerners for everything. Now, if you want to help get a message out that will help preserve Confederate monuments and Southern heritage, then one way to do that is to buy these books, read them, and discuss the ideas with your friends. Use them if you go to a school board meeting to counteract the arguments that the proponents of critical race theory might make. And give us, if you buy the book and you like it, any of my books, it really helps if you give us a 5-star rating on Amazon. You can't imagine how much that helps us. And I appreciate all of you that have done that. I just want to urge you to do more of it, because I keep coming back to the same point. There's nobody back there giving me money. Money that I get comes from the people that buy these books and use them. Okay, that's my message for today, and I look forward to seeing you next time.